Welcome. Today I'll be talking about popular and folk culture in Western Europe, specifically France. Let's get started. Where is France? This country is on the western side of Europe. On the western side of the country, Spain is bordered. On the end of the country, Italy, Switzerland, and other countries are neighbors. This topographic map shows the physical features of France. As you can see, this country contains flat plains and or low rolling hills in the north and west, while the rest of the country is mountainous with the Pyrenees in the south and the Alps in the east. The Mediterranean Sea borders the south end of France, while the Atlantic Ocean is on the north and western ends. France's population in 2020 was 67.39 million. As you can see from the map, a lot of the population is concentrated and clustered in the northern part of the country, in Paris, which is the capital city. First, let's look at an overview of what we'll be talking about today. In this presentation, we are going to look at both folk and popular aspects of France. The first subject we'll be talking about regarding folk culture is music. The picture is a visual representation of the folk song called Au clair de la lune, which dates to the 18th century. Its author and composer are unknown, and it tells the simple story of a man named Lubin who is asking his neighbor Pierrot for a quill so that he can write a letter. Next, we will talk about traditional French clothing. Coiffe, a traditional Breton headdress of the 17th century, is illustrated. This is native to Brittany, France, which is in the northwestern part of the country. These headgears can vary depending on many factors. Some are very tall and some are very elaborate. But one thing they have in common is being white and mostly made of lace. Nowadays, most people in France don't wear this clothing anymore as a result of acculturation, the process of adjustment to the dominant culture. More people are wearing popular clothing, such as jeans and t shirts, losing or forgetting this distinct cultural feature of Brittany, France. This would be a prime example of a special and unique folk culture feature that deteriorated as a result of population culture emergence. Although the culture of this area is adjusting to the dominant culture, assimilation, which is the process of giving up cultural traditions and adopting the social customs of the dominant culture of a place completely, is not occurring, as this custom is not all lost. Some people still wear coiffes during celebratory events. Traditional dances. Once again, we are looking upon a traditional aspect originating in Brittany, France. Breton dance is a group of traditional dance forms. The circular form of this dance is extremely representative of the social structure. The circle depicts a community which can express itself only if each dancer is in the right place. The individual is both a minor and a vital element in the working order of the dancing and singing. On to housing. Shown is a picture of half timbered houses, which were built in France from the late 15th century to the early 19th century. These houses are a building where external and internal walls are constructed of timber frames, and the spaces between the structural components are filled with such materials as brick and plaster. They were ordinary throughout the northeastern part of France, and the style barely reached the center region of the country. An example of a folk holiday is the Rocamadour Cheese Festival of the small commune in south central France. This holiday occurs in late spring, which is usually the 9th of June. During this time, Rocamadour hosts its cheese festival, which includes competitions, demonstrations, music, and other fun activities. Sports. Jeu de paume, or palm game in English, was a ball and court game originally played without rackets. Jeu de paume traces its history back to the 11th century, when French monks competed in this sport, using their bare hands to volley cloth bags of hair or cork. This game has materialized into a popular custom now. The contemporary version is tennis, which is a widely played sport in the world. This picture is a bouillabaisse, a native fish stew dish originating from Marseille, France, which is on the border of the Mediterranean Sea. In the past, bouillabaisse was created by the sailors who worked on the fishing boats. When all the best fish were sold, they took what was left over and made spicy stew of it. Cassoulet. This is a French dish of white beans baked with meat. It originates from Languedoc in southwest France and it was once a straightforward farmhouse fare, but now it has been elaborated into a very rich and complex dish. Cassoulet is an important cultural characteristic of the region. The French language. French is a Romance language of the Indo European household. It descended from the Vulgar Latin of the Roman Empire, and it evolved from Gallo Romance, the Latin spoken in Gaul. Today, it is a worldwide language, being the fifth most spoken language in the world, and diffused by relocation diffusion, where people and immigrants move to other places, taking their cultural aspects with them, such as language and religion. There's a certain taboo related to the French language. This is a must. Mind your tu and vous, which both mean you, but in different formalities. Tu denotes a familiarity or level of closeness with the person you're talking to. On the other hand, however, vous shows formality and respectful distance. Essentially, always use the two types at the correct times, or else people will get insulted. Let's move on to popular sports in France. Here, parkour is shown. It is an athletic training sport in which practitioners try to get from point A to point B in the most fluid way possible without assisting equipment and in the fastest and most efficient way. Common parkour includes climbing walls and going over obstacles. It was created in a moderately successful suburb of Paris in the early 1990s by a teenage boy named David Bell. An example of popular music is La Vie en Rose by Edith Piaf. This was released in 1947 and has spread worldwide, attracting many listeners and gaining large recognition. The author was a French singer born in Paris and lived from 1915 to 1963. She is one of the country's most widely known international stars. Baguettes, very famous bread, is a long, thin type of bread commonly made from basically dough with a strong crisp to it. In 1920, steam ovens were introduced to French bakeries, thus allowing bakers to start experimenting with different ways of making bread. One of these breads that they made was the baguette. Now, this delicious pastry has extended worldwide, a huge symbol of French culture. Here, I have a physical example of a baguette, pretty long and very delicious. Modern clothing. Both French men and women wear sophisticated, elegant clothing. One of the most important rules of the French dress code is wearing understated, well fitting clothes. Sweatpants and oversized t shirts are seldomly seen outside in France. This habit of clothing shows how the French have the desire to look tidy without being too revealing. Housing in contemporary France. Most homes in France, whether in a town or a city, are rented apartments. French streets are decorated with rows of 4 or 5 story buildings with large doors made of wood or metal. These doors take you to the courtyard, where you can then take the elevator or stairs to the apartments. The first technology we are going to be talking about, invented in France, is milk pasteurization. This process is named after its inventor, Louis Pasteur, and is the heating of raw milk to a specified temperature and time to kill pathogens that may be found in the raw milk. Without this invention, people would still be taking massive risks when they drink raw milk that may contain bacteria that could create health dangers. This technology has proliferated globally, with tech companies using it to prepare milk for consumers. It is considered one of the largest breakthroughs in public health. The Braille system is the second invention we'll be talking about today. It is a form of written language for blind people in which characters are represented by patterns of raised dots that are felt with the fingertips. Invented by Louis Braille in 1842, it was adopted by France as the official communication system for the blind in 1854. Now it is internationally used. The stethoscope, a medical instrument for listening to the action of someone's heart or breathing. It was invented in France in 1816 by René Laennec in Paris. He used a long rolled paper tube to funnel the sound from the patient's chest to his ear. Later, more technological changes occurred to this instrument, and now it is considered one of the most important tools to check health. The environmental impact on culture. This picture shows the village of Le Puy-en-Velay, France, home of a type of lentil. This type of vegetable has a distinctive flavor because of the area's volcanic soil and dry growing season, which are environmental impacts. This is an example of terroir, the contribution of a location's distinctive physical features to the way food tastes. As we can understand, the village's unique soil and dry growing season are physical features that affect how the food there tastes. Technological policies. On this slide, we're going to talk about France 2030, a plan focusing on sectors of France's industrial future by 2030. It will be worth 30 billion euros over 5 years. 8 billion will go to the energy sector, 4 billion for future transport, 2 billion for the food sector, and so on and so forth. Lastly, we'll come to population policies. France is a pronatalist country, which means that it supports birth. As a result, it implemented motivations to encourage people to have more children, such as an income tax based on the number of children had. The more children, the less tax to pay. Other incentives include payments of cash and paid parental leave. With that being said, this presentation is concluded. Hope you enjoyed.